I'm kind of curious about this. A recent study, recent as today, indicated that voters on both sides of the aisle are feeling inundated with, you know, by Twitter, Facebook information, and that a lot of people who were cited in the study were feeling anger and frustration and overall being a feeling of being overloaded with facts and stuff. How do you feel about what's going on politically?
When I open Twitter, it's just like a feed of politics, and it's always slamming one person every other day. So like, for me, I think at this point it's unnecessary to like get on social media and want to look at politics because it's every day somebody's under scrutiny. And it's just like, I think most people go on social media to avoid that, but now it's kind of become a part of it itself. And I think the political environment has completely changed after Obama. And it's almost now like free advertisement for politicians, like free, I guess it just really helps their campaign. You know, they don't have to pay. And it would be interesting to see how they might start having to pay, or like the different types of ads they could bring into social media.
I agree with Trevor on the fact, and like especially on I think it's more prevalent on Facebook when people actually give their opinions on political matters, and I think that kind of has led to the more political polarization that we've seen in politics today, because obviously like these social media outlets have kind of become more of a battleground for like, you know, friends versus friends or friends versus a person they don't know for like political conversation. And I think that with these battles kind of go on, like we all want to prove ourselves to be right in our political ideology. So I think this kind of has led to more political polarization. We always argue with the other side, want to prove our facts right. So I think it just become a nasty atmosphere on social media, especially with politics. So I kind of like, especially in 2016 election we saw it, and it still continues today. So I kind of try to stay away from it now because I'm kind of getting sick and tired of it myself. But
what do you guys think about his first 3 years?
I think, so Derek speaking,
Okay.
I think economy-wise, if we take out the tariff stuff, because that's muddled everything, but besides that, he's done really good economic-wise, and I think that's going to be his biggest hit point moving in. And from a conservative perspective, he's actually done a lot of good things that we're proud of, like the economy is the big one, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, that was big. So for those things, he's actually done a decent job, but it's just when he goes on Twitter then and rants, he kind of really makes himself look bad. So that's my opinion.
I've been a big supporter of him since day one. I'm actually from like the coal country of Pennsylvania, so I'm kind of from like Susquehanna, that area over there. And I always saw like the impacts of like different how politicians, how they dealt with the deindustrialization, how they dealt with key concepts like coal in that area. And that kind of led me to support him very much because he was this outside force kind of challenging, like Trevor and Derek mentioned, kind of got rid of these deregulations that kind of helped where I'm from. And I'm a big supporter of him also for the fact, like, I kind of like that he's this disruptive kind of force, because I kind of would view myself more as I don't know if I want to like a populist kind of Republican kind of area, and I like that he presented himself as this kind of outsider that would kind of disrupt the flow of what was going on in Washington, D.C., because a lot of us were sick and tired of this corrupt politicians kind of going in, being lifelong politicians. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big supporter of like things like he brings out like term limits. I'm also with like trade wise. I'm okay with the tariffs in effect because it kind of like just putting pressure on China, because I think countries like China has kind of like taken advantage of us for a long time. And I think the way he wants to go about it is kind of putting pressure on them and saying, hey, we're going to put tariffs on you if you want to kind of neutralize that they make a lot of money out of us and we're kind of owe them this much debt. So
let's start then. What do you think about his foreign policy? Syria, or just around the world.
I would say his foreign policy is definitely focused more on America first, and I would say in some aspects that's good, but in some aspects that's not the best thing we should do, because as of right now, the United States is the leading world power. If we want to keep that position, then unfortunately we have to involve ourselves in these things. with how Trump's going about it, I would say it's kind of inconsistent at times, but also slightly abrupt with the recent pullout in Syria, because that happened after a phone call, and a lot of the defense officials in Washington were not notified of that until after it happened. I would say we have had some success though, because we did recently get the leader of ISIS. So I would say there are some good spots, but then on some cases there are some bad spots that would need to be improved for a good record to be obtained.
And I get it. I am not a big fan of Europe and a lot of the leaders in Europe either. I think it's really interesting that like he kind of picks fights with the European leaders and then becomes friends with them. So like if you look, I don't know if it was a year ago, probably around maybe 2 years ago with Macron, he constantly like he was friends with him and then he fought with him, and it's just like that kind of like trembling relationship is a little irritating. And then like Kim Jong-un, where somebody he tweeted out this summer basically that he's going to be a good leader for his country, and like all these deals they're making. I don't think tweeting that was a really wise idea, because that makes you look like you're befriending the enemy and like starting fights with your allies. But like it just is constantly like going up and down, and like you never know what's gonna happen. And I think that's kind of like one of the main points of the inconsistency. Like that for me kind of drew the line, and like I was like, is he really like the candidate that I want? Is there something better out there? And like asking those questions kind of changed my mind.